I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York.
Happy Monday to all. It's the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast, and I am your host, Richie. On today's show, Major League Baseball heavy. Going to hit on some NBA Finals as well, and some potential trade talk regarding MLB's trade deadline and a couple of things that I'm cooking up, or a couple of things that I'm suggesting through the eyes of others that they're cooking up. But before we get started on today's show, some really great news for my podcast family, my family in general. Ring the bell. My co-host Idris Salam is cancer-free. And I just want to say, to find out such great news, not only any day when you have such a battle, but when you find out on your birthday, it's got to be extra special. And to say I'm proud of my co-host would be an understatement. Um, as many of you know, I do this show to honor my late father. You know, when anyone loses a bond like that, it's a pretty hefty loss. And, you know, Idris, being the elder statesman of the podcast family here, it's kind of like plays the role of the cool uncle, the role of the cool big brother. But I just want to say that even from the aspect of leaning on him with wisdom and advice searching, he's always that dude that you could depend on. He is a terrific person at not holding grudges, and just really one of the most fair people I've ever come across, and one of the most worldly people I've ever come across. You know, it's not just business here. You know, Idris is my brother. Happy birthday, buddy. And I don't think you could have received a better gift. And I just want to say that we're all so very happy that this part is behind you. I know you worked hard to beat cancer, and now you can concentrate on recovering in other ways, because I know that the chemo is not easy. But we're just elated with the news that you were cancer-free, Idris. Really happy about that. One of Idris's favorite players, Aaron Judge, is hitting 396 on June 9th. Read that twice if you need to. Not since the great Red Sox, Ted Williams, has a player had this high of a batting average this point of the MLB season. It's pretty remarkable. I feel that in so many metrics, Aaron Judge in some metrics is kind of like this generation's Babe Ruth or Barry Bonds, which is why it is so imperative that the Yankees add some banners, because you cannot have a talent come through your doors that you cultivated from the minors and not ultimately win the grand prize. Do I think this is sustainable after the All-Star break for another 80-something games? I don't know. But my God, is it exciting to see how this is going to play out. As the Yankees go, the Red Sox taking 2 out of 3. A desperate Red Sox team that really needed to win a series. They have not been playing good baseball prior to coming into the Bronx. They lost the opener. It was a slugfest for the most part. Something interesting that happened in yesterday's game, Jazz Chisholm Jr. doing something that a lot of players do nowadays. They get mic'd up for an inning. They talk to the guys on ESPN. I really don't care for it, especially if it's guys in the infield. Sure as shit, Jazz gets a piss missile hit at him, and I think he was moderately distracted because of talking to the guys in the booth. Not something I enjoy. I understand that they want to get the fans closer and closer to the action, but there's some things that I think in between the lines just don't need to happen. And it seemed like Jazz was a little embarrassed because he kind of rushed the play, but the Red Sox definitely did what they had to do, and today it's going to be exciting for their organization as number one overall prospect, according to MLB Pipeline, joins them tonight in Fenway Park as they welcome the Rays. Of course, I'm talking about Roman Anthony. Um, and the Rays are playing really good ball. This is a team that has zero budget. Their best player for the better part of 3 seasons is in the Dominican Republic right now, finding out his fate if he's going to go to jail for 30, up to 30 years in a child trafficking case, sexual abuse, sexual trafficking case, I should say, human trafficking. Talking about Wander Franco, he is on the MLB restricted list, and that trial is going down in his home of the Dominican Republic. And he actually, I didn't realize this. In the Dominican Republic, there's no jurors. It's a judge that decides it, and that's it. But the evidence is truly overwhelming against Wander Franco, so I would be mind blown if he's able to beat this. Very sad stuff, and you feel terrible for the victims in a situation like this. And it's just wasted talent all the way around when you consider the kind of money that the Rays invested in this young man. Only 24 years old. Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. New York Mets, 3 starters, sub 3 ERA. Like it or not, this is why the Mets are for real. I've said it on many a show coming into the season. My biggest concern with regard to the New York Mets was if their pitching was going to hold up, particularly their starters. And they have answered the call. You got McGill, Clay Holmes, formerly of the Yankees, who wasn't even a starter previously in his career. Of course, Kadai Senga, Peterson. They are doing a phenomenal job as a group. And to have 4 guys with ERAs looking like that, it is very, very impressive. Of course, they have one of the better closers in all of MLB in Edwin Diaz, who looks to have made finally a full recovery after the celebratory injury in the World Baseball Classic when he played for Puerto Rico. It's good to see him healthy again. Offensively, this is a team that presents a ton of problems. Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Starlin Marte. This is a team that is very, very talented and a team that I don't think is going to be afraid to make any necessary deadline deals that they have to make sure that they stay ahead of the Phillies. Speaking of those Phillies, they're expected to be pretty aggressive at the trade deadline. Can they acquire Mike Trout? Mike Trout, of course, has been linked to this team in the past, growing up in the area, and obviously tired of not being in a position to win. There's only so long of a window that he's going to have. Shohei Ohtani left the team. Mike Trout has been a staple there for years. I actually think it could go down. I think the Phillies do have the assets to offer the Angels to acquire Mike Trout. And the Phillies are going to need a player of that magnitude, I think, to stick around the right way. And it's not so much about winning the division. I feel confidently that both the Phillies and Mets, barring mass injuries and just a horrible second half, should both be World Series contenders, regardless of who wins the division. But adding a player like a Mike Trout could really get the Phillies over the top. And this is a team that's only a couple of seasons removed from playing in the World Series. So it's going to be very interesting to see if the Phillies could indeed get back there. A couple of years back, they played the Houston Astros. Back to my Yankees. MLB podcaster Chris Rose cooked up a wild Chris Sale rumor. Um, he has them going to the Yankees. Chris Sale, the former Red Sox, the former White Sox, the current Brave. And the reason why this trade could potentially happen or why Sale's name could be out there to begin with, he is the reigning National League Cy Young Award winner. His co-ace, so to speak, Spencer Strider, who has not looked good this year, coming off the big injury last season, still kind of getting up to snuff. But the reason why this could make sense is that it's already June 9th. The Braves are 7 games under 500, so they're essentially where they were when the season started, when they started 0-7. Sometimes you got to notch up seasons as a mulligan. A lot of important people were returning this year. Ronald Acuna Jr., of course, back with them. But these are the two teams more than any two in Major League Baseball that I think need to be sellers. Baltimore Orioles as well as the Philadelphia Phillies. Cedric Mullins is a guy that I think should be on the move. There are others. Tyler O'Neill. These are other players that contenders can hone in on. The Baltimore Orioles just disappointing beyond measure, the kind of season they're having after the two playoff appearances. And it looks like a window that looked ever so promising is now closed. Anthony Santander currently in Toronto. Corbin Burns, who just unfortunately found out he's going to be on the 60-day injured list, he left, went to AZ. I also think, bringing back the Chris Sale name, that the Diamondbacks could be involved on a deal for him because of the recent loss of Corbin Burns. So definitely something worth keeping an eye on. But man, Chris Sale to the Yankees, though? And then you got Cole coming back next year. You still got Rodon. You got Max Fried. Fried and Sale reunited. That would be interesting. Gonna move it over to the National Football League. My late father's favorite team, the Green Bay Packers, releasing longtime cornerback Jair Alexander, the often injured one the last 2 years. One of the better cornerbacks in the league when healthy, but he's missed 14 games over the last 2 seasons. I have a couple of suggestions as to where Jair could fit in, but I think it's going to potentially take a little bit of time because I don't think teams are going to be jumping at him immediately because of the injury history. I know that some people that cover the Giants are saying that this is a move the Giants absolutely should make. I don't agree with it because of the sheer fact that I think the Giants are in a position where you have to keep developing the young talent. Bringing in a guy like that could derail some of that. Not to mention that, you know, we're not exactly close to winning a Super Bowl. I think we're more close to getting just back to respectability. And I think when you bring in a player like that at this juncture of his career, I mean, he's still relatively young. He's 28 years old, but he's going to be looking to go to a team that's a little bit closer. Couple of teams off the top of my head that I think do potentially make sense for Alexander. The Dallas Cowboys. Pairing him with Quadre Diggs would be very difficult for other offenses. I would have to think the Miami Dolphins could be in play. And I would not count out the Los Angeles Rams, who have also been linked to former Ram Jalen Ramsey. Those are three teams off the top of my head that I think could make very good sense for Jair Alexander. We're going to see how that plays out. NBA Finals. The Thunder avoid another fourth quarter collapse with a 19-2 run to even the series with the Pacers. Pacers have already done their job. They took one on the road. Tyrese Halliburton played the role of big-time clutch shooting prowess guy, that dude, in crunch time. He was heating up in the fourth, but the Thunder won on a big run. Game 3 is going to be so pivotal. Not just because it's going to, the winner's going to be halfway home to win in the finals, but also because the percentage of the team that wins Game 3 in the conference finals as well as the NBA finals goes on to win the series more frequently than not. Very pivotal game going down in Indy tomorrow night. And I kind of like the road team. I think the Thunder are going to do what they got to do to take the Indy crowd out of it I just think they're a better team. I think they fell asleep at the wheel, as the Knicks did in game one. But the difference is the Thunder have a much deeper team, and they could afford to have a fourth quarter failure like that and still win the series. Going in, I said Thunder in six. I'm sticking with it for now. My beloved New York Knicks, Jason Kidd is linked. Now, there's conflicting reports that Dallas is willing to give him permission to seek a job with the Knicks. He is currently under contract with the Mavericks. And some people believe that he should actually stay where he is. When you consider that Kyrie's coming back healthy, you still got AD over there, and you got the number one overall pick in the coming NBA draft. But on the flip side, a point that Mike Greenberg made, and I tend to agree with him, is that the Knicks are closer, mainly because the Eastern Conference has a little more of a clear path than the West does. With Jason Tatum likely to miss all of next season, that basically takes the Celtics out of any kind of favorite to come out of the East. I would have to say that the current Eastern champion Indiana Pacers, the New York Knicks, possibly the Miami Heat if they make a big move, and of course the Cleveland Cavaliers. Those are your teams right now. Will Orlando make a big move and join the party, enter the table as one of the better teams in the East? I think Orlando is a lot closer than people realize. But it's going to be interesting. It is imperative that the Knicks get this right in terms of who the next coach is going to be. Because when you make a move like this, it's to win the championship. Anything short of that, when you fire a guy, when you're only 2 games away from the finals, will be viewed as a failure and a franchise decision that turned things the wrong direction. And there's no guarantees in this league. I am curious to see if Tom Thibodeau will coach again in the NBA. I'm also curious to see if Mark Jackson's going to get any consideration. It seems like he's on the do not hire list. There are a litany of reasons as to why. Some reading that I did some time back suggested that Mark Jackson was not well received by his players because he was trying to push faith on them. I don't know. Has Mark Jackson been gone too long for it to truly work out? It's going to be interesting. Very interesting to see if Mark Jackson comes back. Of course, Malone's been linked to the Knicks, but something tells me that if it's going to be Jason Kidd. I really believe Jason Kidd is going to take the jump to the orange and the blue. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Definitely curious to see what you guys think. It's an off day for the Yanks tonight as they get ready to make the trip out to Kansas City, a team that they played in last year's divisional round, a team that this year is still trying to find some of the magic that they had last year. It's still early, so I'm not going to count out the Royals just yet. But yeah, definitely a bit of a slap in the face, a wake-up call for the Yanks, getting smacked around by the Boston Red Sox. And I mean, it's bound to happen. You know, Carlos Rodon has been so very good this year. In the previous series, Max Fried, who's been so good, got slapped around in Los Angeles. He takes the ball game one, Kauffman Stadium, against the Royals. So it will be interesting to see how each of these dudes respond. Yankees still patiently waiting for the return of Luis Gil and our current closer, Jared Weaver, on the DL. Excuse me, the IL, as it's called now. So Devin Williams has been jumped back into the ninth inning role more by circumstance, but we have to hope that D. Will can reclaim some of that confidence that he had during his Milwaukee days. If you haven't already, please make it a point to like and subscribe to the channel, the Richie Hicks Jr. Sports Podcast on YouTube. Make it a point to check out the V Mix, the Vicious Mix, where our guy, Idris Salam, gives you the best of every musical genre on live365.com. Check out the Casual Convo Show every Wednesday, 8 to 10. That same Idris, he's a busy man with the beautiful Miss Coco. Our boy, Johnny Nast, the Sports Corner, just getting off the ground on that. Shouts out to him as well. Huge friend of our show here, big supporter of everything we do here. So, what else going on before I get out of here? This Diddy trial is kind of interesting. Gonna be definitely more than tuned in to see which way that goes. Growing up in the golden era of hip hop, I have my own reservations about if Diddy's gonna slide through on this again. But at the same time, you want justice served for the right charges. Sometimes when the feds put these cases together, I do think that sometimes they aim so high that they kind of lose the stuff that you could get somebody on. And those are some of the reasons why certain people do end up walking. And the money also helps too. Witness intimidation, litany of things. But definitely wild. And I can only imagine how it would be if they actually allowed cameras in the courtroom like they did during the OJ trial. This would be a complete circus if they even want that route. But I'm 50-50 on it. I don't know which way this thing's gonna go. But until next time, I am Richie. Enjoy the rest of your Monday. Not really sure what I'm gonna tune into tonight. Might check out City of Lies. I've attempted to finish it, haven't quite ever finished it, and I would like to, being that I always revisit the Biggie Smalls situation as well as the Tupac Shakur situation uh, as much as I can. I was a fan of both, definitely a fan of both. But enjoy the rest of your Monday, everyone. And I might even check out Monday Night Raw for a little bit. I got a love hate with WWE, but I'm happy R Truth is back. I'm out.